about to leave. Already packing, come with me.
Lightning strikes by my window, hits my chest right in the morning, like a warning. Could have slept here for days. I felt your heartbeat, felt your mouth breathe, but it's not real. We were close to see the sun, but clouds got in our way, and so
Well, hello, everybody. It's Sunday night, and it's time for One Word again, where we come together on Sunday nights at 7 and try to carve away all the distractions from the week, either the week in the past or the upcoming week. I don't know about you, but on Sunday nights, I'm sort of reflecting. Usually, I'm through reflecting, but I'm thinking about what's coming up and maybe a busy week ahead of me. And so we don't want to add to that by any means. What we want to do is simplify. And so we just focus on one word for the week. Many times in our leadership or in our character, as the weeks progress, and as we kind of get in tense situations, it's always nice to have one simple foundational thought to think about. And so we're even reducing it down even more than that to say just one word. The name of my business is Discover Blind Spots, and I'm not here to sell you anything, but one of the things that we believe with a blind spot, if you shine light on it, then perhaps it gets rid of that blind spot. So part of our reason for gathering on Sunday nights is to just shine some light on some words that might influence our character, might help us to be a better leader this week, might help us just to be simply a better human being in our interaction with others. We've talked about leadership, and some of you may say, well, I don't lead anybody. But remember, if you have the ability to come in contact with somebody, if you have the ability to influence somebody, you are leading. You have the ability to lead. So hopefully this will connect with you, and look forward to spending a few minutes with you tonight. So as I said, it's one word where we carve that away. And so what's the word for this week? Well, I really didn't have it until this morning. Sometimes I try not to force this or try not to plan it too far in advance. I try to wait and see really, kind of what comes to me. Maybe what sort of God gives me in regards to that. This morning, I didn't have a word, but I remembered something this morning. There was a comment that I saw this week that really stirred me, and I didn't really have it attached to this word, but I had it attached to a different word. So let me just jump in instead of being so mysterious. All right, here's the word, courage. So if we want to be a better leader, but if we also just want to be a better person, we have to have courage. Now, why am I thinking about that? Usually these words are things that I'm thinking about in my life and kind of stirs up. Well, I don't know that I've been thinking about courage, although I have a little bit. But I've been thinking about the opposite of courage. You know what that is? Fear, right? So I don't know about you, but have you had times where perhaps you just had to deal with fear, whether it was in your workplace or whether it was in your life or your family or something happened, and for whatever reason fear consumes us. Sometimes it consumes us to where it almost cripples us. Other times it just irritates us. It just kind of nags at us and causes us to kind of hunker down in our shell a little bit. And so I've done that. I started this business 2 years ago. One of the things that I noticed was that I'd wake up in the morning and I would perhaps have some fear. I mean, I needed to support my family and needed to make sure that this works. I have bills to pay and so forth. So it wasn't uncommon for me to wake up if the phone wasn't ringing, to start to play those conversations in my head and have some fear. So, and I thought, well, maybe we'll talk about the word fear, but I didn't want to focus on a negative word. I really wanted to focus on the opposite or the positive word of being courage. So that's where we're going to go today. So let's start by looking at this quote that I read this week, and I saved it, and I want you to look at it. You may have seen it before. I had not seen it, by Dale Carnegie. I know Dale Carnegie, but I had not seen this quote. It says, "Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy." That's what Dale Carnegie says. I love that. And when I started thinking about that, I thought, any time that I have any anxiety inside of me, I love to do strategic plans, and I do a lot of planning. And I work with clients, and I help them in regards to their communication, but also in their planning. And I notice anytime that I lay out a plan, my anxiety goes down. It's a little bit of the fear of unknown, fear of not having a proactive plan is what keeps me from feeling like I have any kind of courage whatsoever. All right, now let's look at this definition of courage. It is the quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc., without fear. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I do that all the time, but it is a quality. They're talking about our mind and our spirit. But here's one thing I want you to notice. Here's a little bit of a courage fact. Courage is not an intellectual quality. In other words, you can't go to school and get courage. In other words, you can't have someone hire yourself a tutor to teach you courage. He can teach you about courage, but he can't give you courage. And also, it can't be taught in a classroom, as I said. It is not something you go to college and I want to major in courage. Not an intellectual quality. But and then my last word there, experience. Courage requires experience. We know that, right? We become courageous when we take a small step that leads to another step and leads to another step. All right, I love this quote related to that by this Buddhist monk. Look what he wrote. The longest journey you'll ever take is the 18 inches from your head to your heart. All right? From your head to your heart, that 18 inches, that's the longest journey. He's basically saying you need experience. It's not just an intellectual part. You've got to move beyond the neck and get down into the heart. All right. So why don't you somebody post a comment or so about your experience with courage or your experience with fear? I mean, one or the other. I mean, we've all had it in our day. So, be transparent and put something out there. Let me know that you're watching and you're listening, and we'll come back and we'll address some of those comments. I love it when you do that because we get to address your ideas, not just mine. So add some wisdom if you have some, or even some of your anxieties or fears as well, and how you deal with them, because that obviously helps others. All right, I'm gonna walk through. So there's my little. Here's a quote. I almost forgot this. Here's a quote from Winston Churchill that I love. It says, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." That's the wisdom piece, right? That's the experience piece that we have. That's what brings courage into our leadership. All right, here's the reminder to post a comment if you would. I'd appreciate that. Now, I'm going to move to some tips to help you be courageous. And I've got 5. And so let's just run through them and see if you can identify with them. Number 1, the most courageous place to begin is with yourself. And the way to do that is to be authentic, right? Sometimes that's the hardest conversations that you have is with yourself, to learn to be authentic and transparent. I know leaders that struggle with that probably more than anything. And it's interesting, sometimes leaders will think, well, if I'm too authentic or too transparent, those who follow I'll lose their respect. And what I always want to say is, you know what? They already know your weaknesses. You don't have to worry. So first of all, if you want to be courageous, start by being authentic. All right, number 2, be resilient. Being courageous means that you have to be resilient. There are times that you just have to put your head down and keep moving, and that's the courageous move. Being courageous is not always the things that show up on the front page of the newspaper, right? Or the headline of the news. Sometimes being courageous is the one who stays out of the news or out of the newspaper or out of the praise, but shows up every day and is resilient and leads through crisis or leads through confrontations. All right, number 3, confront reality head on. All right, this is one of the biggest problems that I think that we have as a human race, and particularly leaders have, is that we just don't confront reality head on. All right, it's just one of those things. We're afraid to address the issue. We see a dysfunction, we don't call it out. We allow dysfunction to continue for years and years and years, and we just don't want to confront it head on. Reality is helpful. Reality can be your friend. Make sure that you confront reality head on. Don't look the other way. Think that it'll go away. Typically it won't. Usually the dysfunction continues. So if you want to be courageous, confront that reality head on. All right, number 4. Don't lose. Maintain your clarity. Don't lose clarity, particularly with your vision and your purpose. Anytime that I work with a group and I have them write goals, I always say, let's write a why statement of why you created this goal. You know why? Because you'll lose clarity while you're in the middle of the journey. And so you need to pull out that goal statement, that why statement that says, okay, now I know why I'm doing this. Courageous, or maybe I should say fearful leaders, one of the reasons they're fearful is they lose clarity about the vision and the purpose. If they were crystal clear, it would be easy to be courageous. But sometimes we lose that clarity. So go back to that vision statement, go back to that purpose statement in order to make sure that you can be a courageous leader. All right, the next one, last one here. Take action. It's back to that quote. If you sit around and do nothing, you'll actually almost become paralyzed in your leadership. Make sure that you take action and do something. When you put a plan in place, you start to see clearer and you start to become more courageous. I always tell clients who are thinking, they've got a project they need to do, they need to write something, they need to communicate, and they're like, I just want to get it right. Have you done that yet? No, I'm working on it. I'm still thinking about it. I just want to get it right. And I always say, hey, remember, version 1 is always better than version 0, right? Version 1 better than 0. And here's the other thing that we have a tendency to fall into this trap. If we have a plan or we have something that we need to do, sometimes we think if it has 20 steps to it, that we have to have all 20 steps laid out and we're clear exactly what we need to do. Remember this, you only need to know the next 2 or 3, right? Because here's the deal. See, step 6 is probably going to be influenced by step 5. And if I make a decision now what step 6 is going to be, I'm probably going to be wrong. So make sure you have clarity about the next 3 steps, then take the next 3, and then the next 3. So don't feel like that you have to sit and have everything laid out, because you know what will happen is you'll miss the opportunity to be courageous and the opportunity will pass by. All right, so here we go. Let's look at some comments and see what we have here. And let me pop some of these up on the screen. All right, Christian said, I would suggest that courage does not denote the absence of fear so much as it means the ability to carry on in the face of fear. Great comment. Yeah, absolutely, Christian. I don't know that we completely get rid of our fear, but you're right. Being able to walk through that, our courage becomes stronger, our fear becomes less. Absolutely. Another thing he said, Duncan was hit by a car once. Duncan, his son, right outside our house. I had to hold it together while we got him into the backboard, onto the backboard, into the ambulance, into the hospital. He was okay, but for 2 hours until we knew it, it was hard to, it went off the screen. Sorry. It was hard to, it was hard to stay calm and in control. Absolutely. Sometimes great example of needing to be able to be courageous right in the middle of our fear. All right, here's one. Let's see here. Greg says having the courage to face fear reduces and ultimately helps to eliminate the anxiety it brings. Absolutely. It's just you can't have an equal amount of courage and an equal amount of fear. I don't believe. In other words, the more courage you have, the less fear. In other words, you walk towards courage and you walk away from fear, which sort of sets up my last slide that I want to share with you. So take a look at this. I put this together today. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about this idea of when we're in our fear zone, and I drew a circle around it because there's sometimes that if I'm fearful, it's just a small circle, and all I got to do is just get up and do something. Okay, I'm out of the fear zone, whatever that is. But sometimes that fear zone just covers us up, and so we're deep in it. And one of the things that I think we forget is we watch something or we read something and it's like, just take a step, just do something. And so we take a step, but we're still in the fear zone. And so we retreat because it's like, I took a step and it didn't work. And so I'm still, surrounded by fear. I put this graphic together to kind of illustrate that sometimes it takes more than a step. In other words, sometimes it takes several steps. We take a step, we take another step. We may take 3 or 4 steps before we start to see a little bit of a glimmer of courage or being courageous. So just remember, anytime that you're in that fear zone, start walking. Don't give up. You will walk out of it. And I read something a week or so ago talking about, what you need to do is you need to walk out of your fear. That's what inspired this little graphic. And so sometimes I tell myself, I'll be planning for the day and there'll be something that I'm just worried about, something maybe I don't feel like I can do or something. And I'll say, you know what, Tim, I got to walk out of fear today and be courageous with whatever that is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But remember, taking a step could discourage you. Take multiple steps to get out of the fear zone. All right, so I'm going to leave you back with Dale Carnegie's, at least a couple of lines there. Remember this: inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. All right? So have a great week. Go and be courageous. Walk out of fear, even if it takes a couple of steps, and be courageous in your leadership this week.